Hello, and welcome to the Underpaid Gamers Podcast, the official podcast of underpaidgamers.com. My name is Tony. Today we'll be talking to some news. It'll be another newscast. Things on the board to talk about today. EVO 2016, the Xbox One S, when that's going to be released. Some Game of Thrones news, of course, Pokemon Go and Ghostbusters. And then, to top it all off, what Neil Druckmann, the director and writer behind Uncharted and The Last of Us, is currently working on. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first things first, let's get some news out of the way. Amazon has listed the new PS4 to be released sometime in October, same day as when the VR is being released. There are rumors for that. I don't know if they've been confirmed or not. However, there has been a confirmation for when the Xbox One S is going to be released, which will be August 2nd. So that's really only a couple weeks away. It's going to be the 2 terabyte hard drive, which will be $400, and the lesser versions will come out later and they'll be cheaper. So there's going to be a 1 terabyte version that's rumored to be around $350, and there's going to be a 500 gigabyte version that's rumored to be around $300. So Xbox One S, if you haven't got an Xbox One like most people, and you want to get something slimmer, you can go ahead and get that. I don't think $400 is a very bad price at all for a 2 terabyte hard drive. So yeah, if you're looking for Xbox, I would say pick that up. There has been some... Let's talk about EVO. So EVO happened over the weekend. I watched it. It's the most prestigious fighting game in the world. Happened last weekend on July 15th is when it started. Ended on July 17th. I only watched it for Smash. I only watched it really for Melee. And Hungrybox actually got first here at EVO. So this is the 4th time that Melee has been at EVO. Mango took the first 2 EVOs in first place. Armada took EVO last year, 2015's EVO in first, and Hungrybox took 2016's EVO in first. However, in 2013's EVO, Hungrybox got 3rd. In 2014 and 2015, Hungrybox got 2nd, both years. And now in 2016, he got 1st. So he is almost undoubtedly the best player in the world right now. So we'll see when those rankings come out, when the Melee and Omni rankings come out. But he did incredible. This was the biggest either Smash tournaments of all time, either Smash 4 or Melee, but specifically the biggest Melee tournament of all time. I saw the most people watching to be upwards of 212,000 people watching concurrently during the Melee top 8, which was the highest viewed show on Twitch, the highest viewed channel on Twitch. So it's just exciting to see a game that's 15 years old be so popular. I know it's at EVO and there's a lot of other things going on, but 212,000 people were exposed to Melee and competitive Melee, something I hold very dear, some like my favorite esport. So it's nice to see it getting larger. Hungrybox actually went down into the losers bracket in top 8. He was taken out by Plup, who got 3rd. He then beat Mango, beat Plup, and then beat Armada in 2 sets of best of 5, as Armada was in the winners bracket, so he had to be moved down to the losers bracket after Hungrybox beat him once, and then he had to beat him again. And it was just crazy. Those are some really good games to watch. If you want to watch some good Melee, you can go watch those games. It was a very emotional win for Hungrybox. He said last year, and this is kind of maybe something that all video game players can relate to. He said that when he first started playing Melee, he wanted to make that a priority. I mean, he still has a job and he still does these other things. But his father is essentially like, you're not going to make anything of yourself if you just play this video game. Talking was like not encouraging him. And I think a lot of people that play video games have experienced that one way or another, where people will say, hey, what do you like to do in your free time? You say, oh, I like to play video games. And they're like, oh, why don't you like go outside and do something like that? And And then Hungrybox, with that in his past, he has won EVO, one of the biggest championships of all time. So it's just crazy how that's turned around, and it's just, if anything, gamers should be able to get behind people like that, because we've mostly all experienced the same thing. We've all seen people that look down on us for playing video games, and they say, oh, why don't you go outside and play some balls, like play baseball or soccer or whatever, or football. But, we like what we like. But to go into that, there's been a lot of hate going around for Pokemon Go, which is almost exactly the opposite of what I just said. Like, people say, go out, get some air, be outside, do things in your community. And Pokemon Go has encouraged people to do that. But people are still hating on Pokemon Go. They say, oh, if you play Pokemon Go, you're a loser. Oh, if you play Pokemon Go, you're lame. I can't believe anybody would play this Pokemon Go, which is ridiculous because it's doing incredibly well. I talked about this on last week's episode, but for more news on Pokemon Go, there was this is going to be in US dollars. It was translated, I think, it was translated from yen to US dollars on the Tokyo stock market. But last Friday, I guess a couple days ago, they traded a total of $4.5 billion on a single day for Nintendo. And Nintendo didn't even make this game, but that breaks records in Tokyo stock, in the stock market. That's the most single day trading this century. Nintendo stock has increased by 86%, adding $17 billion to their market value. And that's all because of Pokemon Go has come out. And it's even more weird because Nintendo didn't make Pokemon Go. Niantic made Pokemon Go, but obviously they're using Nintendo characters. Either way, I'm sure people have experienced this where people say, I don't understand why you play Pokemon Go, I just don't get it. And you're like, cool, I understand that you don't get it, we don't have to like the same things. But then there's like, for every one person that doesn't get it, there's like 3 people that are playing it and enjoying it. And obviously that shows in the stocks, and it shows in all this stuff. And I, myself, am playing it, and I know Justin, my cohort, my compatriot, is also playing it. And we actually got an email recently by Liggy Moon, and he said, hey, I saw one of your gyms. I saw a guy with your name at one of these gyms around town. And I haven't replied to him yet. I need to reply to him. But I'm going to reply to you right now. I'll probably say the same thing. And that's just, if you see Underpaid Gamers, that's my handle on a gym, or you see Just Terp, which is Justin's name, on a gym anywhere, just chalk that up to Underpaid Gamers globally dominating the Pokemon Go standards. Like, we're trying to take as many gyms as possible. I've been to 3 different states since Pokemon Go came out, and I've taken gyms in every state. So if you see a Pokemon gym with Underpaid Gamers or Just Terp, know that that's one of us, and we're on our way to global domination. So thanks for looking out, and thanks for emailing us, Liggy Moon. It's nice to see that people actually look at names, because it's so weird, because when I see a gym, I look at what Pokemon and what combat power they're at. I don't necessarily look at names, but it's nice to see names. So thanks for mentioning that. I played Pokemon Go earlier today until I ran out of battery. My phone's charging right now. I'm going to go back out. So Pokemon Go is incredible. Next, I guess we'll talk about some bad news. Well, maybe some bad news, some perceived bad news. Game of Thrones Season 7 is releasing later on in the year. Now, the reasoning behind this, they said, is that because winter has finally arrived in the Game of Thrones world, so they need to record and tape when there's actually snow and winter on the ground. But along with that, there's only going to be 7 episodes instead of the standard 10. So Season 7 is going to release later in the year. Instead of the spring, it's going to release in the summer. And there's only going to be 7 episodes, so that's 3 less episodes. Now, whether that means the last episode is going to be 2 hours long, which will then total up to be about 8 hours, and then the last 2 episodes before that will be an hour and a half, which will total up to be another episode itself. That 2 halves is 1. That's about 9 episodes. Maybe. We'll see what happens, but there's 7 kingdoms, and there's 7 episodes, so maybe that's how they're going to do it. I don't know. I finally caught up with Game of Thrones last month. And it's so weird to have, because I was behind Game of Thrones for years and years and years, and I always had something more to watch on Game of Thrones, but now I'm all caught up, and I'm just like, what do I watch right now? I guess, I don't know. I don't have any Game of Thrones to watch, but speaking of things to watch, I am currently watching Stranger Things on Netflix, and it is pretty good so far. It's one of those, it's a sci-fi, it takes place in the 80s, it mostly revolves around these kids. It's a sci-fi thriller type thing, like a decade sci-fi thriller. It's really good so far, but it's one of those, it's a mystery, sci-fi thriller mystery. So it's one of those shows where you can't really judge it until you've seen everything, and that's mostly how mysteries go. You have to get to the ending where you see the big reveal in order to understand the whole series, understand the whole season. Some shows that aren't like that, I would say, would probably be like your Daredevil, because Daredevil isn't really a mystery. There's action in every episode. Like I remember for season 1, episode 2, there's an awesome hallway fight scene that I talk about all the time. So like that automatically got me hooked onto how awesome that was going to be, how awesome that season was. And I think with this one, I am really enjoying myself. I'm kind of limiting myself to one or two episodes a day just because I don't want to overdo it, and I want it to last. But I really can't wait to get to the last episode, and understand this mystery. So many people have been talking about it, talking about how much fun it is. And I suggest if you have Netflix, you can almost consider that this is a free. It's a Netflix original series, so they've been doing a lot of those recently. It's just done really, really well, and I would suggest watching it. Speaking of TV and movies, Ghostbusters has finally been released. Ghostbusters 2016, the all-female cast with Melissa McCarthy, and other people that I don't know. Also, I just found out recently, I don't know if this is true or not, that Melissa McCarthy is the highest paid actress, I don't think of all time, but currently she is the highest paid actress. And, I mean, that's cool, I guess. I didn't expect that, but I guess that's cool. Anyways, Ghostbusters opened up this past weekend, with $46 billion. So that's pretty good. That is nothing to shake a stick at. It's actually so good that they are currently working on sequels to an all-female Ghostbusters cast. So if you like the first one, you can expect to see more. If you didn't like the first one, hey, don't go see the other ones. However, with an opening of $4.6 billion, this is the best of all collaborations between the director, Paul Feig, and Melissa McCarthy. So what that means is this Ghostbusters has done better than Spy with Melissa McCarthy and Jason Statham. It has done better than Bridesmaids. And it's done with Melissa McCarthy and a whole bunch of other people. And it's done better than The Heat, which is Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Sandra. So it's just, that's something I did not expect. That this is better than this has done better than all of those. Not necessarily it's a better movie, it's just that it's done better. So maybe they're onto something. Maybe this Ghostbusters 2016 sequel isn't as bad as people say it is. I have not seen it. I'm not a real big fan of Ghostbusters to begin with, so I probably won't see it, but just keep that in mind. The Rogue One trailer. Another Rogue One. Well, it wasn't necessarily a trailer. It showed some footage, but it was like the Star Wars Celebration. They also showed like a Rogue One trailer celebration type thing where there's like behind the scenes where they had discussion panels, and then also they showed some new footage. Unfortunately, at the Star Wars Celebration, there was a panel of the actors, and I guess this is going to be a spoiler, so if you don't want to know anything about Rogue One, you can turn off for like the next probably for the next 2 minutes, I don't know. But one of the characters was talking about Donnie Yen's character, and Donnie Yen is the blind Force user that has a staff. He's the karate guy. He's the martial arts guy. Donnie Yen is the actor from Ip Man. He's the actor from all these kung fu movies. So just picture that guy in your head. It's the blind guy that has a staff and fights all these guys. They inadvertently spoiled what happened to him in the panel. I'm going to tell you what happens right now. If you don't want to know, don't know. But one of the characters, it's really a cringe-worthy video of watching, but not Donnie Yen, but another character, says that once Donnie Yen's character dies, this and this happens. And like everyone on the panel just like face palms, and people have to get him from stopping to talk and things like that. And that's a big spoiler in general, but just knowing that like Rogue One happens before Episode 4, obviously most of these people are going to die. So I don't know. It's not something that I wanted to know. It's not something that should have been said, but people could have guessed that it would happen. First of all, he's blind. How is he going to fight a whole army of people with guns if he is blind? I don't know. But yeah, so he has confirmed to die in this film. So spoiler over. If you're coming back right now, the spoiler has been done. We're moving on. Yeah, so Valve has finally addressed the gambling situation with CSGO Lotto. Essentially, they kind of did some PR stunt, I guess. Essentially, they said, we have never encouraged gambling, and we will never encourage gambling in the future. Which is kind of weird, because on their website, on their game and on their website, there have been links to CSGO Lotto, and there have been links to these skins Lotto sites where you can put your skins in and do like a blackjack type thing or a roulette style type thing, and then get your skins back, get more skins, and sell those for money and things like that. And then they say that we've never done that before, and you're like, hold on, there's literally links here that shows that you have. But then they also say that we're not ever going to do that in the future. And they have removed all these links from their website and all these links from the game and all these things. So they're doing the right thing, but at the same time, they're like, we have never done this. And we're like, well, you kind of did. Like, there's ties here. So, I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. I know people haven't been talking about this ever since Pokemon Go came out, but I'm not laser focused on it, but it's kind of like on the back burner. Like, I just want to know what happens to these guys, to Team Martin and to Syndicate after all this, after all these allegations, after all these court dates have finally ceased. I want to see what happens. It looks like I have 2 more things to talk about. One is a Hindu leader wants to remove a skin from Overwatch. I believe it's the skin for Symmetria and make her look like a Hindu goddess type thing. So he says that's offensive, and in the past they've said that characterizations of their gods are very offensive, and I understand that. I can see where you're coming from. It's cool that you want to protest Overwatch and say, hey, I don't want this in here. That's fine. Do you, boo-boo? Do you? But at the same time, like, I don't know if it's going to happen. And I want to bring up Smite because there's Kali is a Smite god, and she's from the Hindu religion. And I don't know if they've ever protested Smite. I don't know if that's just because they represent her better in Smite than they did in Overwatch or what. But Overwatch and Blizzard has been known to remove skins and poses from Overwatch as they've been offensive. Again, we've talked about Tracer and her victory pose, which is like an over-the-shoulder look. And that made her rump look too scrumptious, I guess. So they had to remove that in order to appease some of the fans. So maybe they'll remove this skin from Overwatch. I don't know. I'm just bringing it into the news, guys. Like, I don't know. I'm just letting you know. Okay, so let's get right into it. Neil Druckmann is discussing a story he's currently working on. So Neil Druckmann is the director and the writer for The Last of Us and for Uncharted 1, 2, and 4. He didn't direct or write for Uncharted 3. I got this from Gamefly, but they got it from another. They got it from an interview between Neil Druckmann and The Frame, and essentially, he talks about a new story he's working on, which could be Uncharted 4's first single-player DLC. It could be The Last of Us 2, or it could be another book, because Neil Druckmann wrote a book in 2010 called A Second Chance at Sarah. So there's something going on here with Neil Druckmann and Sarah, because Sarah was a name in The Last of Us. I don't think there's a Sarah in any of the Uncharted games, but then he writes a book about Sarah, and I guess this came out before The Last of Us, but still. And essentially, I haven't read this book, but the plot synopsis for A Second Chance at Sarah, or the little descriptor on the back of the book, says that, and I quote, Johnny stares at his newborn son, a dying wife, and a demon's talisman, and agrees to a deal. Now he must relive a day from his teenage years before he met his wife. Can he uncover her secret past and prevent the selling of her soul in only 24 hours? So that's one of those games where, like, you're in the present, you go back to the past, do some different actions, and you affect the future. And the interviewer picked up on this, and he said, now, I've seen these kind of themes happen before in your games. And Neil Druckmann's like, oh, I haven't thought of that. And if you think about it, it's true. Ever since Uncharted, well, I guess, like I said, he didn't participate in Uncharted 3 as much. But in Uncharted 4, there's a lot of the storytelling takes place when Nathan and Sam are younger. So it kind of shows, like, this is where they came from. These are the decisions they made to get them to where they are now. And that kind of happened in The Last of Us. Not so much because it's more of a linear storyline. But he says, in reference to that, and to the interviewer's question of, I've seen these themes before, Neil Druckmann says, you've noticed a pattern that I haven't. But that's interesting, and it's interesting in that I think about the story I'm working on right now. The theme is definitely there. I think a lot of times I think about myself or other human beings, and what are the events that have shaped us. What are the kinds of choices we have defined who we are and what have led us to this place? So maybe he's working on a brand new IP for Naughty Dog, which would be incredible. Maybe it's something that deals with the past action. Maybe there's a time travel part of this. Or maybe The Last of Us, because there's 20 years between... In The Last of Us 1, the very intro scene happens and then 20 years pass and you're with Joel and Ellie. So maybe The Last of Us 2 is like right at the beginning of The Last of Us, and it's kind of these decisions led to what happened with Joel and Ellie. It could even be Joel. because Joel survived for those 20 years. I don't necessarily know if I want that, but that kind of falls into this theory of like, he's working on a story right now that has to do with decisions that affect the future. So maybe he goes back and The Last of Us 2 takes place in those 20 years beforehand. And it doesn't have to be the whole 20 years. It could be just 1 year like it was in The Last of Us. But we'll see what happens. And again, even if that's just Uncharted 4 single-player DLC where they go back, or Sam goes back, and you find out what happened to Sam between when him and Drake separated, when him and Nathan Drake separated. So we'll see what happens. I guess that's Neil Druckmann. It's nice to know that he's working on something, he's thinking about things, and again, like, he's an accomplished writer and director. So whatever he's going to do is going to be incredible, especially if it's at Naughty Dog. He could go anywhere and make it incredible, but Naughty Dog is like top-tier performer for PlayStation right now. So that's what I care about. If you haven't played any Naughty Dog game recently, then I say pick it up. Uncharted, The Last of Us. They're incredible. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for listening. Again, my name is Tony. If you want to contact us, if you want to email us like Liggy Moon did, you can email us at underpaidgamerspodcast@gmail.com. Or if you want to do something more simple, just tweet at us at UPGamersPodcast. Or even if you want to do something more simple than that, when you're listening to this on SoundCloud, just type in the comment bar. We'll see the notification and we'll reply to you. Again, if you want to listen on iTunes, or even if you don't want to listen on iTunes, open up your iTunes, give us a good rating. It really helps us and helps our score out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys again next time. Forgot to mention, we also have a YouTube channel. Videos are uploaded weekly. There's always a video at least once a week. Sometimes there's a video 2 or 3 times a week. So just keep your eyes peeled onto that, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.